Welcome to Run With Purpose. For those that are new to the show, my name is Flores. So glad you found this podcast. Would love if you would subscribe. You hit that little button and get notifications every time there's a new episode. And you can also reach out to me on the socials at flores.run. Today is a very special episode. For episode number 4, I have an amazing leadership coach, friend, person on the show.
All true.
All true things. The executive director for Rela, Shannon Lee. Hi.
Thanks for having me here, Jonathan.
No, thanks for being here. I would like to say it's not like she joined another day. We just finished recording her podcast.
Yeah.
So it worked out really.
I didn't make a special trip out here for you.
Yeah, you're like, no, I'm not driving the 10 minutes down 23, even though you have to hit like the 2 worst stoplights to get down here.
Well, and it didn't take me that long, even considering it was rush hour traffic. So I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I guess from your place, it's not too bad.
It's really
at that
not.
Time.
But sometimes, for whatever reason, even going the other coming this direction from our place is like insane. No matter like at that time of day or any other time of day, it just depends. So.
Well, it depends. Like when we record at your house, sometimes or all of the times, getting from me leaving work early, I still hit a stupid amount of traffic.
Well, especially where you are, I know exactly.
I
used to make that commute from that same exit.
Yeah, you did.
Not fun.
Yeah, that's not fun. That's not a thing. So today is going to kind of get into the idea of purpose and intentionality. So this is kind of what the whole podcast really is about. The last few episodes, we've talked about fitness related things and like specifically running related things. But I really want this podcast to be a little bit more than just that. I want the Run With Purpose to kind of resonate with you, and you can insert whatever verb that you have there instead of run, like whatever you do, doing it with purpose and intentionality. And I thought Shannon and I were talking about it, and I thought she was the perfect person to have on for this show because she deals with this kind of thing. Like she's very, very knowledgeable in leadership, servant leadership, intentionality, and just everything in between. So yeah, we're just going to have a conversation and see where it goes. How's that sound?
Perfect. Is that where the music starts?
No, the music already started.
Oh, okay.
The music started the show.
Oh, so there's music right now.
Well, the music would have been golf by now, maybe. I should just play it again.
Okay.
I'll pull it back in and post and be like, that was weird. Why did it just fade back in and fade back out? Yeah, I do like standard kind of thing. So like music's in. It's a lot easier to edit.
So what you're saying is my podcast is difficult.
You're kind of a diva.
Well,
but you know what?
It's a specialty actually for me. I specialize in...
You're intentionally being a diva.
I have specific things that I like.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We all have our little things that we have to... that are ours.
So are you asking me questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I really just want to kind of talk the idea of if someone is not necessarily trying to find purpose, but like what's some things that people can do to be more intentional, or what are some good like helpful, I don't say tips or tricks, but like some things that people can do in their everyday lives that'll help be more intentional in their actions?
Well, I think when I think about intention, when I think about purpose, one of the things, and this is going to sound a little esoteric, and I'll try to make it more practical after this, but this was helpful to me. I used to beat myself up because I thought I had to have some kind of calling. Yeah. Right? Like, here's the thing that I'm supposed to do with my whole life, right?
This is what I'm going to be when I grow up.
Right. Some of that was informed by, it was influenced by church upbringing and a really heavy emphasis on, what is your calling? Other people would describe this as, their higher purpose. Some people might call it, just what they're passionate about, whatever. Right. And so I think for me, because I never actually felt that I had a calling, I mistakenly believed that, I guess I'm not, that I couldn't find anything I was passionate about. And I think the mistake I made was thinking that I had to be passionate about something to find a purpose. Okay. What I've learned now, and I'm not ashamed to say I'm 47 years old, at this point in my life, what I realize is that passion is actually built over years. And it grows and develops through trial and error, through just doing different things in your life, just trying to keep it kind of general. The more I try to seek what my specific purpose is, or why am I put on this earth? There's this quote that says, the greatest day, the second greatest day is the day you were born. The greatest day is the day you find out why, or something like that. Here's the thing.
That's a t-shirt.
I still don't know why. Okay. Like I don't have, here it is in a sentence. Now I can tell you what my purpose is right now in my life. But as soon as I start applying that purpose to my whole life, all of a sudden I've now limited my life.
Right.
Because at this point in my life, I've had certain experiences. I've learned a certain number of things. And so anything I would say is my life's purpose today would be informed only by those 47 years of experience. 10 years from now, I hope to be more advanced, more evolved, more developed, whatever. And I hope that quote unquote purpose changes. Now, what does intentionality have to do with that? Well, I would say the biggest marker for me in making that discovery was earlier in my life, and I think this is common for most people just in our chronological development, is we're less aware. We're less emotionally intelligent the younger we are. Generally speaking, we grow in awareness as we get older. I would argue, however, I've met a few 80-year-olds that are not as self-aware as my Hydro Flask right here. But, so that's not always the case. However, I think generally speaking, most of us are more self-aware, more emotionally intelligent now than we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, etc. And the biggest difference there is intention around just growing as a person. I think when we focus our intention solely on accomplishing a thing or a task, that we can achieve great things. But if we also don't get intentional about what kind of human being do we want to be, that when we're not intentional about that, we can actually miss out on a lot of beauty and a lot of great experiences around what we would call a purpose or our reason for our why for right now. And so in thinking about that, I think being more intentional, if there are younger folks listening to this, being more intentional about the kind of person you want to be and how you want to show up in your life. How do you want to feel? What kind of thoughts do you want to have in your life? Do you want to have thoughts that are angry and victim thoughts? Do you want to have thoughts that are freeing and liberating? What kind of emotional life do you want to have? Now, I'm not saying all negative emotions are destructive emotions because, if a family member dies, a negative emotion is sadness and grief, right? And that's okay. That's normal. I'm not saying we should push away every emotion that's difficult or uncomfortable, but there are damaging emotions. And so if we're aware of damaging emotions, that's one way we can be intentional and say, I didn't like that. I don't want to do that to myself anymore.
Right.
So that's where intention shows up the most for me, is just being more intentional about who I want to be as a human being versus, I never woke up one day and said, my purpose is to be an executive director of a nonprofit. But what I could have told you after I had more of this awareness, this intention around who I wanted to be, is I was very clear on what I wanted my days to feel like, what kind of people I wanted to be spending time around, what kind of freedom I would have with my work. Mm-hmm. Like I was really clear and intentional about what it felt like to be me in my everyday life. And as I just kind of sought out the more and more of those feelings, the right experiences started showing up. And I'm like, I can accomplish that as an executive director. That's really cool. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean being an executive director will give someone else that experience. It's just how I like to say, it's what the universe brought to me. But it really started for me, the intention started with who I want to be, how do I want to show up, not like, what is it I'm here to do?
Right.
And then the second thing, just to reiterate, that I let go of this idea that I have to be passionate about everything that I do, because I realized that passion for what I'm doing today actually has grown over 20 years. If you would have had to like nail me down in 1995 when I graduated college, and said, okay, Shannon, what are you passionate about? I got a degree in education. Was I passionate about teaching fifth graders? Hell no. And I found out after teaching fifth grade.
Now, I would have been, was I in fifth grade? How old's fifth grade?
Wait, how old are you now?
I'm 32.
So that's 15 years?
Yeah. So no, I would have been, in 95, I would have been 8.
So you were still...
That's elementary.
What's that, second grade? First grade? No.
Yeah.
Math is hard.
Carry the one.
I wasn't a math teacher. You were in lower grades.
Yeah, we'll
say lower grades. You weren't in fifth.
I was youngers.
You weren't in fifth. But I learned really quick that I didn't like teaching elementary students. They were way too needy for me, right? You know, I miss my mom. I need help with this. Wipe my nose, blah, 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 blah. Like, and I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying I learned about myself. I'm never going to be passionate about this. So some things I knew right away, this is never going to be a passion for mine. But I discovered more about my purpose and my passion when I started paying attention to what brought me joy. What, when I ended the day, made me go, yes, that was awesome. And I just started being intentional about paying attention. And it sounds like a redundancy, but I got intentional about what brought me life.
Right.
You know, they say follow your bliss. That sounds so, mushy.
Yeah.
But I just paid attention to those things.
I think it's interesting, like you said, like a bunch of like key words there, I think that like really stuck out to me. It was like talking about your passion and your purpose. And it's not necessarily, it's kind of I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, or you may not be passionate about something, but you may feel like called to do something, or someone else is pushing you in a certain direction. But the key that I got from what you were saying is finding that joy, like what brings you joy in your life, and then go there. It's not necessarily a position or a company or any of those kinds of things. It's finding, in really what you're passionate about, but really what gives you joy to basically do it every day. I hate that quote of, what is it? Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, or something to that effect. That's just like, no, because if you love something, you're going to put more time and effort and work in, and it's going to be a pain in it. Like, I love doing photography and videography, but it's a pain in the ass and it takes a lot of work to do it.
Well, and it's unrealistic.
Right.
The vast majority of people, some statistics say up to 90% of the American workforce doesn't love their job. So what are we all supposed to do? Quit our jobs and go do what we love?
Right.
Not everybody gets to do that. And yes, it is fortunate if you can love what you do and feel like there's purpose in it. But the vast majority of us don't get that opportunity, and for a lot of different reasons. And so what? Does that mean now you can't find passion at work because you don't have that, unicorn of a cross section of passion and purpose? I mean, that's ridiculous, and that's totally unfair. Actually, there was a study done, and it's talked about in a book called The Power of Moments, where they look at employee performance and the cross section of performance. So they looked at like high performers all the way down to low performers. And interestingly enough, well, this part won't surprise anybody. People who didn't like their job and people who couldn't connect their job to a higher purpose, only 10% of them were in the high performing range.
Yeah.
Shocker, right? People who love their job and people who found their job really connected to the higher purpose, 80% of them were high performers. Also not a shocker.
Right.
The problem is those people were only 10% of the workforce, right? Here's where the majority of the people sat. And both of these will surprise you. Number one, people who love their job but didn't connect it to a higher purpose, only 20% of them were high performers. You do not have to love your work in order for you to connect it to a purpose.
Right.
It's a lie that in order for me to have passion at work or passion about what I do professionally, that I have to, or for me to connect it to a higher purpose and have meaning,
right,
that I have to love what I do. It's not true. Statistically, it is not true. But what's interesting is even people who aren't passionate about their work, if they can connect it to a higher purpose, and the higher purpose just has to be higher than they are, right? 65% of them were in the high performing range. 65%. This is good news for the vast majority of us who don't have jobs we love.
Right. We don't like the job, but if we're doing something for something, I wouldn't say greater than ourselves, but that idea of it's more than just you. You're making a difference. Whatever that difference means to you, you're making a difference.
Yeah. So I think finding your purpose is something you can do in micro moments. Like, what is this? How does this podcast connect to something that is a higher goal for you? Or what does, gosh, even if I'm cleaning the house, it'd be super easy to, well, I pay someone to do that now.
But that brings you joy.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
That's great.
Paying the woman to clean my house who cleans better than I do brings me joy. Yeah. But when I have to do certain menial tasks with my job, even as the head of the organization, they're just administrative things. There's details I have to take care of that are just not my favorite, right? I don't feel passionately about those, and they sure as heck are not a part of my purpose, right? But if I go to that dark place where I'm like, oh, I hate doing this. This sucks. I doing this report every month. That's how I feel about my expenses and mileage. If I say, you know what, this is important, and I can remind myself of something higher than the actual act itself of why it's important, that's me connecting it to a purpose, and that's being intentional about it. It's making a choice. And I guess that's really the point, which is you choose if you find a higher purpose in something or not. If you look around and you go, all is miserable, lamenting, and, the world is going to hell in a handbasket or whatever, guess what? That's what life's going to show up to you. That's what you're going to attract. And I'm not suggesting that we silver line our life. Brené Brown talks about this idea of silver lining our circumstances, where we're, if you go, hey, Shannon, my grandma died, and I go, well, at least your grandpa's alive. That's silver lining. It's like
you died too.
Yeah. Well, at least your mom's alive.
Yeah.
That's silver lining where we ignore the bad. And I'm not recommending we do that, but I am recommending that we get intentional with, choosing how we view our circumstance.
Right. And you brought up a pretty decent point too of finding purpose in whatever task we're doing. And that's kind of why I'm doing the podcast. You know that because we had the previous podcast and it just didn't, I wanted to continue doing something like that. We went away for a little while and I just still felt this like itch to I feel like I've done a lot of stupid things running, and I've learned a lot of lessons along the way. But one of the biggest things, and I talked about it, was it 2 episodes ago? I talked about goals in the episode and kind of talking about goals need to be important to you. Someone else can't give you a goal. A goal is to finish the Boston Marathon or to qualify for the Boston Marathon. I don't think I'm ever going to get there. Would I like to? Man, something in my throat. I don't know why I put the Boston, but the idea of someone else can't pick your goals for you. They need to be personal to you, because if they're not personal to you and they don't mean something to you, achieving them is going to be, you might get to it, but then when you finish that goal, it doesn't mean anything and you're looking for the next goal. You're just basically playing for the next game. And it's what's the point of that? I wouldn't want my life to be just a series of, all right, I did that. Now let's do the next thing. What's the next thing to do? It's kind of the whole big picture of it. I started running, then we started the Hangry Race series, and now I'm traveling the country running, and now I have podcasts talking about it and trying to show people that, you can do things with, you may not have a lot of time and money, but the time and money you do have, maybe you can, go volunteer somewhere or donate money or help out a homeless person or, something like that, where everything you do, you're choosing to have purpose in that or not.
Right.
The choice is there. If you don't find purpose in it, it's because you're not looking. You're pushing away and you're saying, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. And you have choices, right? I'm a big fan of just paying attention to what comes into your life. And, I've told the story how our podcast got started. I'm not going to retell the whole thing right now, but it happened.
You can hear it on which episode was it?
I don't know which episode, but it's on the Slapcast.
Don't worry. We're going to plug it. I literally have that in my notes to make sure we plug it.
But it came about almost as a joke.
Right.
Right. The SLAP is an acronym for our 4 values of the nonprofit. And it was almost a joke, but then we're like, wait, why not? Right. And then it was like, okay, I put that in the back of my mind and I said, we'll try to make that happen. I knew nothing about it. And then I can't remember how we got on the conversation, but I said, yeah, the board wants us to do this. And but I don't want to go all the trouble of buying all the equipment and stuff. Like again, back to the details piece about like how I hate details.
Right.
You know, like all the wires you have on this table right now, just
there's a lot happening
really
right now.
Give me hives. So, and then you said, I have all the equipment. Why don't I just do this? And so again, paying attention to what I guess in a way kind of naturally comes into your life. And then when it does, I could have easily said, nah, I don't want to take the time to do that.
Yeah.
But instead I was like, the idea of it was engaging and exciting and kind of fun. And so I thought, I'm going to follow that.
Right.
Never have I ever followed something that sounded fun and engaging that afterwards I was like, oh, I totally regret that. I only regret the things I didn't do.
Right. But even if you did, let's not even say regret. Let's say, and by the way, the Slapcast, you can find it anywhere you can find podcasts because I produce it there. So
Bam.
It's everywhere you can find it, but definitely check it out. It's really, really, really good stuff. What were we just talking about? I literally just lost it. I really should write down notes.
Following like what naturally comes into your life.
Yeah. So let's say it didn't go well. Say you did a few episodes, no one's responding to it. Yeah. No one's really engaging in it. The worst thing that happens is, you know what? I tried it.
Yep.
And that's it. And you said another thing that it's part of my, like the last year, I think we talked about it. I do my whole motto for this past like almost year now is getting comfortable with discomfort, putting myself out there and just doing things that make no sense, like the camping trip, which I think we talked about. Did we even talk about that?
You went camping?
Yeah, 3 days.
In a tent?
3 days in the Appalachian Trail. And the first time I pitched a tent was out here. It was right there when I got the rental equipment 2 days before I left.
Are you pointing? He's pointing out his window to a parking lot.
we got the camera rolling now, so we might actually use it. Yeah, Shannon, I'm borrowing the camera too, so we have like a semi-video. I look like a bum. Anyways, but it's getting comfortable with discomfort. But the other like part of that is when people say why, my first answer now is why not?
Yeah.
It's instead of going to the instant, like to make an excuse, I need to somehow convince myself that I'm going to instantly say, that's a great idea. And then now think about it there instead of initially going with the negative, going, oh, I can't do this. Like, no. Take a step back. Let's be positive and say, yes, I'm going to do that. Some things are stupid. Like I just asked one of my cop friends, I go, so logistically speaking, how can I run 270? Like if I want to run the loop, how can I do that? He goes, you'd have a real hard time getting permits. I go, but I could try. I could try to get permits. There's no way this is going to happen. Oh, another friend said he knew someone that actually did. He actually did it like overnight.
Oh, when it was,
Yeah, you basically wait until like 10 p.m. but you got to run pretty quick. 'Cause it's like 40 something miles.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I don't know. I probably shouldn't talk about this just because I get arrested for doing it. Like, oh, he did talk about that.
It's just an example.
Yeah, just an example of a thing. But instead of saying, like I said, instead of going straight negative and immediately giving the excuses of why something couldn't be possible or why I'm limiting myself in what I believe I can do, it's take that step back, say, why not? And then really process through and go, is this something I can actually do? And more often than not now, like you said, if I feel like I'm going to enjoy it, I get into it and I do it and to enjoy it. Every once in a while, I'll have an idea and I'm like, that was a dumb one. And, I take some time to ponder on it and go, that may have not been the smartest decision, but I took the time to not discount it instantly and go, no.
Well, what I love about that, because what I hear when you say that is you're not afraid to experiment.
Right.
And just to see what happens. And what I love about that is I can't even count how many things that I've tried to do that I'm like, well, shit, I just did that thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And had I not been willing to, and they weren't even like these huge colossal risks, right? They were just things I'd never tried before.
Right.
Like a podcast. You're right. I had no idea. In fact, I didn't even know until we recorded, 2 or 3 weeks ago that we even had anybody listening. I literally made it a joke, but I actually thought it was true. That was like, yeah, our whole 10 listeners. And you're like, actually, you've got like 200 and some subscribers. I'm like, really? And I'm sure that's not as high as like really, really big popular ones. But the point was, I didn't do this to get a particular result.
Right.
I did this because it sounded like it would be fun to do. And I thought it would be a great way to promote the organization and to have really interesting conversations and to talk about the things that I like to talk about that are where I'm more confined in the workplace because I'm running an organization. Even when we do workshops and trainings, I'm confined to the curriculum, even though I created it. It's like, I have 8 hours with these people or 2 days with these people. There's only so much we can talk about. Whereas on a podcast, I can break out one topic and talk for an hour on it if I want to, or 45 minutes. And I don't have that opportunity anywhere else. So I saw it as an outlet for me. And then I was like, well, if it doesn't go, it doesn't go. Oh, well,
right. And as well as you come to the point of you didn't know, and this is not a joke. She really didn't know until 2 weeks ago when she made the comment. And I told her that we had, a couple hundred subscribers, is she had no idea that this was people were even really listening to it. She knew some people were, because we've had conversations with people like, oh, I love the show. Yada,
I made my husband subscribe.
Yeah. Oh, obviously.
He goes, I go, what have you thought about it? He goes, well, I haven't actually listened to any episodes.
It doesn't matter as long as you give us 5 stars. I have a couple 5-star ratings on this show, and I'm like, I don't think you people actually have listened to this. Because if you listen to it, you're going to say, no, that's not. And I hope I haven't been peaking this entire time. I just realized I hit my volume button. Well, oh well. We'll figure it out in post. But shit, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, you didn't do it for the result of a number or for the result of like external people. It was, this felt good to you and you felt like this was going to bring value to people. If that was one person or 1,000 people, it's going to bring value to people. So why not do it? Why hold your, I believe we're given these gifts and abilities that may not come across as much. It's like, yeah, we're just talking, we're having a conversation in a microphone. Everyone does this, but it's having the ability to have other people hear your perspective that can kind of open their eyes to like, oh, I never thought of something that way. And I did it. The Goals podcast, I had a couple friends that had listened to it and they were like, oh, the way you worded that, I would have never thought about it in that way. And it's like, yeah, it just came to my head and I said it. It wasn't like, I'm not going to write a book on it and, be like, this is a quote, sell a whole like series about like how this is how you run with purpose. Buy now for 5 easy payments of $19.99. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, and I think what that speaks to is when we're looking to discover our purpose, whether it be some big picture for our life or even for right now, I think looking at motivation is important, and that's something we can be intentional about. And here's what I mean by that. If your intention around finding a purpose is to drive yourself to perform, right? You're like, I need to find my purpose so that I can accomplish something and be famous, or so I can accomplish something and move up the ladder or whatever. Like you're driving yourself to perform. You in essence are making your purpose performance, which will never work. You'll never actually feel fulfilled by that. Instead, if you focus and get intentional and have a drive to develop. And I think that is, to your point, what will I learn by doing this? Because that's how I looked at the Slapcast. I was like, well, even if it flops, I'll learn something.
Right.
And that's how I view, meetings with part of what we do is we have a social enterprise, and that social enterprise, we essentially sell learning and development services to individuals, teams, and organizations. And so in that process, we sit down with people and have discovery meetings, and sometimes we end up working with those employers or teams or whatever, and sometimes we don't. And I heard my friend Chris McAllister say this. He said, where we get into trouble is we attach ourselves to the outcome of that meeting. Like, man, we got to sell this. This is going to be a $25,000 contract if we get it, And so we show up to that meeting with this like needy, like the 14-year-old girlfriend or boyfriend who, just needs you to like them, right? I need you to we're going to show up that way because that's how we're feeling.
Right.
And we don't even know it. if instead we show up to that meeting by attaching to the process of the meeting, like, man, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to do my best to ask really great questions and really partner with these people and help them uncover some of their deepest learning and development needs. And that's it. I'm only attaching to the purpose of that day, which is to learn. And when I attach development, learning, and growth, whether it be a meeting or for myself personally, I find that now, whether or not I get the business or whether or not I achieve what I set out to achieve or whether or not the Slapcast is good or not, I find that I'm not nearly as disappointed. I'm not nearly as emotionally tied to that result either way. And so it allows me to just put my whole heart into the process without worrying about what happens on the other end.
Yeah. It's a problem with our society, I think, as a whole, with that external gratification of someone needs to give me that acknowledgement of those kind of things. Like, they haven't done it yet in the US, but Instagram with that whole likes thing. Did you see all that stuff?
Yeah, I've heard
People
about it.
flip the fuck out about that. Like, no, I need to know exactly how many. I want everyone to see how many likes I have on this photo. Why? What does it matter?
Yeah.
If you're if you're putting something out for people to see, that's it. If people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But to have that gratification based off of other people's things, and the internet's a very bad place to be looking for positive reinforcement. If you want to feel really shitty about yourself, just post something on Reddit.
You know what Eckhart Tolle says about that? Not about social media, but he says that when you feel like you don't get the validation you want from others, like you're not getting enough, or someone's recognition of you is too small, it's actually because you feel small. And it's an old book he wrote called A New Earth. And he talks about this whole concept of our need to get that external validation. He talks about the ego, and I could never do him justice, but I just re-listened to this chapter, and he talks so eloquently about how what we actually need from the world is what we view in ourselves, or what we're afraid of in ourselves when we're being needy. And boy, that hit me between the eyes of, when I feel like you haven't given me enough, it's because I'm feeling small.
Yeah.
And so again, it goes back to being more aware of, and I'm not saying you got to go fix that, because I don't think you can fix it.
No.
I think what you fix is you just be aware when you're feeling like that. And the more aware you are when you're feeling small, not feeling validated, just by being more aware, it starts to quiet down, and it slowly over time starts to dissipate, when all of a sudden you realize, oh, that person disrespected me, or that person not giving me validation or whatever. All of a sudden you'll wake up one day, 6 months, 8 months later, you go, oh my gosh, that didn't even matter to me.
Right.
And it's only because you were aware. It's like you can't actually work on it. You just, other than now that you've heard it, to just kind of notice when you see it happening in yourself. It's a weird kind of juxtaposition of you work on being aware, but you can't really, that's all you can do.
Right.
And the awareness is actually what brings the change. It's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good. I think you guys just got a lot for free right there. So
yeah, I normally charge like $5,000 for all that.
Yeah.
So.
And she's not joking.
Just kidding.
It's 15. It's usually 15.
It's usually 15.
It's usually 15.
I wish.
What did we say about being a diva? I don't know if that first part was in the intro, if that was before we recorded.
I'm a diva. That's like a Beyonce song or something.
Probably it is. I don't know. I don't listen to her. I'm not a big fan of her. That's why I won't watch the new Lion King, just because.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm not a big Beyonce fan, like, at all.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a big fan.
Let me rephrase. I don't want to do anything that she's in. Like, I don't want to be involved with anything.
So you really don't like her.
I just don't like her whole, like, the biggest thing. So I already didn't really like her just because, she's like the queen or whatever. Like, everyone was like bowing at her feet, whatever. But they did a cast photo of the Lion King, and she was the only person that was not there. And they photoshopped her in at the end because she couldn't be there. All of the TV interviews they did on like late night shows and stuff like that, she did not show up.
Oh,
she didn't do it. And I'm like the kids are doing it that are playing like Simba Nala, like the young ones. And I'm like, you are not that important, okay? But that's a whole nother soapbox.
I guess my admiration for her is her ability to sing live and dance and not be listen, I'm out of breath walking up a flight of stairs. Okay. Forget about dancing and singing at the same time. Well, I can't dance anyway, but I watched her homecoming special on Netflix just because I was like, I've got to see it. And sure enough, 2 solid hours.
Yeah. Which, I mean, again, it's
impressive.
Yeah. She does impressive things in that sense, but I don't take well to people that, whether they say it or not, they act like they're better than everybody else. And it's like, yeah, you have more money than I'll ever see in my lifetime, but I'm okay with that. I don't need it. All right. Sorry. I went off that track. But so Shannon, how and where can people get in touch with you or in touch with Relay, or, we'll plug Slapcast as well?
Probably, I'm happy to give out my personal email, but it's probably easier just to remember the info email.
Yeah.
Just because it's simpler. It's info@relayleadership.org. That's RELA leadership.org. If you want to email me directly, it's my first and last name @relayleadership.org. Our website is relayleadership.com. And again, Slapcast, look for it anywhere that podcasts are published.
And then is it Relay Leadership on all the socials?
It is @Relay Leadership, Instagram, Facebook,
the ones that matter,
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Is there another one? Did I miss one? Someone asked us if we did Pinterest one time. I'm like, why would we do Pinterest? No.
I had a Pinterest site, and then I realized why.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not crafting things. I'm also not a 26-year-old female that needed her pumpkin spice latte.
I could see where a runner could have a successful Pinterest, like recipes for
That's most of the stuff you see on there is like recipes, training plans, and like top 50 places I'd like to run. And if you want that, you can visit my website at www.flores.run.
Great. Now I want tacos.
Yeah. Tacos. But yeah, so thanks so much for listening. Thank you, Shannon, for being on the show. You can reach out to me on social media at flores.run on Facebook and Instagram. Again, if you enjoy the podcast, subscribe. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Google. Leave me some stars, a nice comment, or a bad comment. You don't like it, you want something changed. There's only one way to do it, and to let me know. So you can shoot me a DM or leave a review. That'd be great. And you can visit my website, www.flores.run. I've got all of the blog posts up there, so we are caught up to date on all of the races. And then I've got some cool videos and stuff coming out soon on the YouTube channel, but you can find all the details there on the website. Thank you so much. Remember to keep running with purpose, one step at a time, and we'll see you guys next week.